March 12th, 2019, a Tuesday that began like any other in the small town of Moritz, in the Serra do Mar region. The weather was slightly cloudy, with a mild temperature typical of the approaching autumn in this area, rich in preserved Atlantic forest. Paulo Ricardo Oliveira, 34, a forest engineer. His wife Marina Campos Oliveira, 32, a biology teacher, and their daughter Julia, just 6 years old, planned to walk along the famous Itapava Trail, a historic path that connects the coast to the Paraná Plateau. Paulo was known for his interest in ecological trails and frequently took his family on nature hikes. Marina shared this passion and saw the trails as an opportunity to teach little Julia about Brazilian flora and fauna. The couple had lived in Curitiba for 8 years, but often spent a few days at a small inn in Moritz during long holidays or weekends. That Tuesday, they had decided to take advantage of an unexpected day off for Paulo to explore a less-traveled section of the Itapava Trail, known as the Stone Path. According to the visitor logbook at the Morumbi State Park, Paulo, Marina, and Julia began their hike at 10:47 a.m. The couple informed the park ranger, Antonio Pereira, that they planned to cover only an intermediate section of the trail and expected to return by 4:30 p.m. They carried a backpack with water, snacks, insect repellent, and a small first aid kit, basic equipment for a hike that, under normal circumstances, would not pose significant challenges for experienced adults like them. They seemed well prepared and excited. Antonio Pereira would later recall, Mr. Paulo even joked that they would be back in time for coffee and cake at the inn. The little girl was especially excited, talking about the birds she wanted to see. However, at 5:45 p.m., alarm bells went off among the park staff. The couple and the child had not returned, and the sky was beginning to darken. In that region, night falls quickly, especially in the denser areas of the forest. A call was made to the inn where they were staying, but no one had returned. At 6:37 p.m., the first search team was assembled, composed of 3 forest rangers equipped with flashlights and radios. They proceeded along the trail, calling out the names of the couple and the child. Night had fully fallen, and a light drizzle had begun, making the search even more difficult. Then the unexpected happened. Little Julia was found alone near the entrance of the trail, approximately 800 meters from the ranger station. She was wet from the drizzle, with some scratches on her arms and legs, but no serious injuries. She was in shock, trembling, and repeating a phrase that would puzzle investigators in the months to come. They slept on the ground. They slept on the ground. Immediately, Julia was taken to the nearest medical post, while the search for Paulo and Marina intensified. The fire department was mobilized, and a more robust operation was planned for following morning. News of the couple's disappearance quickly spread to the small town of Moritz and soon reached Curitiba. Relatives were contacted and rushed to the area. Julia's maternal grandmother, Helena Campos, took care of her granddaughter while the search continued. It was the worst phone call I've ever received in my life, Helena would later say. When I arrived at the hospital and saw my granddaughter repeating that phrase about sleeping on the ground, I knew something terrible had happened. With the dawn of March 13th, 2019, a massive search operation was launched. The Paraná Fire Department mobilized 23 personnel, including specialists in rescue operations in dense forest areas. The military police provided a helicopter for aerial reconnaissance, and volunteers from nearby towns joined the efforts. The Itapava Trail and surrounding areas were divided into sectors, and teams were assigned to each area. It was like looking for a needle in a haystack, explained Lieutenant Carlos Mendonça, coordinator of the operation. The Serra do Mar is densely vegetated, with ravines, gorges, and rock formations that can conceal people even a few meters from rescuers. The first day of the search ended without concrete results. Only an empty water bottle and a handkerchief that Marina's family identified as hers were found. Both were located approximately 3.5 kilometers from the trailhead, in an area known as the Bromeliad Lookout. Meanwhile, investigators from the civil police began collecting the first statements. The most important, of course, was that of little Julia. However, the child psychologist, Dr. Luciana Martins, assigned to the case, recommended caution. The child was in shock, showing signs of acute trauma, explained Dr. Martins. Forcing a detailed statement could cause further psychological harm. We needed to respect her processing time. In the following days, Julia underwent light therapy sessions, during which small fragments of information began to emerge. In addition to the already known phrase, "They slept on the ground," the girl mentioned the sound of water, men in the forest, and a rocky path that fell. Children of this age often mix reality and fantasy, especially in traumatic situations, Dr. Martins explained. But each fragment could contain valuable information. The investigative team decided to focus on areas of the trail near waterfalls, interpreting the water sound mentioned by Julia. Regarding the men in the forest, two initial theories emerged. They could have been other hikers the couple encountered on the trail, or, in a darker hypothesis, potential aggressors. On the fourth day of the search, a disturbing discovery was made. Approximately 5 kilometers from the trailhead, in a difficult-to-access area known as the Stone Crevice, the couple's backpack and a child's sneaker identified as Julia's were found. The backpack's contents were intact, including food, the first aid kit, and 2 turned-off cell phones belonging to Paolo and Marina. "It was strange," commented Sergeant Oliveira, responsible for the sector where the items were found. "It didn't look like there had been a struggle or that the backpack had been abandoned in a hurry. It was as if it had been carefully placed there." The cell phones were immediately sent for a forensic examination. Unfortunately, Marina's phone was dead, and Paolo's, although still charged, was password protected. Investigators would need a court order to access its contents, which would delay the retrieval of potential clues. Meanwhile, another line of investigation began to be explored. Local residents reported the presence of a group of illegal heart of palm harvesters in the area. The illegal extraction of the Jacera palm, an endangered species, is a recurring problem in the Serra do Mar region of Paraná. These so-called palmiteros are known to act violently when confronted. "It's a possibility we cannot rule out," stated Police Chief Roberto Andrade in charge of the case. Paolo, as a forest engineer, could have identified the illegal activity and inadvertently confronted the harvesters. This theory gained traction when a local resident, who asked to remain anonymous, reported seeing unusual activity in the area on the afternoon of the disappearance. "I saw 3 men carrying something heavy on a tarp, descending a secondary trail. At the time, I didn't think much of it, but after hearing about the missing couple, I started wondering if it was related." By the 6th day of the search, hopes of finding Paolo and Marina alive were beginning to fade. The area covered by the teams had already exceeded 20 square kilometers, including not only the Itapava Trail, but also alternate paths in dense forest areas. At that moment, a new piece of information emerged. Analysis of the last photos taken with Paolo's phone, recovered by the forensic team, revealed images of rock formations not initially identified by local guides. After careful review, one of the most experienced forest rangers recognized the location, a site known as the Jesuits' Grotto, situated off the main trail, approximately 7 kilometers from the entrance. "It's an area that's not part of the official tourist route," explained the ranger. "It's difficult and dangerous to access, with a risk of landslides. I don't understand why they would have gone there, especially with a small child." This discovery redirected the search efforts. If the couple had indeed ventured to the Jesuits' Grotto, they would have faced extremely rugged terrain, with deep ravines and unstable rock formations, particularly dangerous on rainy days like that one. At the same time, the investigative team finally managed to access Paolo's phone. The last messages he had sent were to a colleague at 1:22 p.m. that day. "Found something incredible here. It seems to be an unmapped cave. I'll take photos and show them when I return." This message supported the theory that the couple had deviated from the main trail in search of additional exploration. Risky behavior, but consistent with Paolo's adventurous profile, as described by friends and family. However, a disturbing element was found in Paolo's recent browser history: indigenous legends, Serra do Mar, Guarani earth ritual, meaning of sleeping on the ground, and sacred caves Paraná. These searches, conducted 2 days before the disappearance, suggested a specific interest beyond mere recreational hiking. On the 10th day of the search, when hopes of finding the couple alive were already minimal, a new investigative lead emerged from an unexpected testimony. Carlos Mendez, an anthropology professor at the Federal University of Paraná and an expert on indigenous cultures of southern Brazil, voluntarily approached the police station after reading about the case in the newspapers. The searches found on Paulo's phone, and the phrase repeated by the child caught my attention. Mendez explained, "There's an old Guarani legend about those who sleep on the ground, called I've O Kiva in Guarani. According to tradition, they are guardian spirits of sacred sites who take underground anyone who disturbs certain ritual places." The anthropologist explained that there were historical records of caves and grottos in the Serra do Mar used by the Guaranis for sacred rituals. Some of these caves contain rock paintings and artifacts never properly studied by modern archaeology. Paulo contacted me about 3 weeks ago, Mendez revealed, showing emails exchanged with a forest engineer. He had found references to an uncatalogued cave during his research on the region's flora. He was excited about the possibility of discovering an unprecedented archaeological site. This revelation completely changed the course of the investigation. If Paulo had been deliberately seeking this cave, he may have taken his family to an extremely dangerous and unknown area, driven by the thrill of discovery. A new search operation was organized, this time including speleologists, cave exploration specialists. Based on information provided by Professor Mendez and the latest coordinates extracted from Paulo's GPS, the team headed to a remote area about 9 kilometers northeast of the main trailhead. On March 24th, after nearly 6 hours of trekking through extremely rugged terrain, the search team located the entrance to a cave partially hidden by vegetation. On the rock beside the entrance, markings resembling time-worn paintings were identified, possibly the indigenous inscriptions Paulo had been seeking. The cave entrance was narrow, allowing only one person at a time, and descended almost vertically about 4 meters. The speleologists, equipped with ropes and proper lighting, began the descent with extreme caution. What they found inside the cave shocked the entire team. Approximately 12 meters from the entrance, in a small natural chamber, were the bodies of Paulo and Marina, side by side, as if they were sleeping. There were no obvious signs of violence, injuries, or struggle. Their facial expressions were serene, almost peaceful. It looked as though they had voluntarily lain down there, described Lieutenant Rodrigo Alves, the first to reach the bodies. They were holding hands, in a natural position, as if they had simply fallen asleep. The preliminary forensic examination, conducted on-site due to the difficulty of immediate removal, could not determine the cause of death. There were no external injuries, apparent fractures, or signs of animal attack. The initial hypothesis was asphyxiation from natural gases accumulated in the cave, a phenomenon known to occur in poorly ventilated cave formations. The discovery of the bodies partially confirmed little Julia's testimony. Her parents had indeed slept on the ground, but how the child had managed to escape and make alone to the trailhead nearly 10 kilometers away remained a question. Partial answers came during a new therapy session with Julia, who was now more recovered from the initial trauma. With the help of drawings and dolls, she was able to communicate additional fragments of what had happened. Daddy and Mommy wanted to see the home of the ancient Indians. We found a hole in the rock. Daddy went down first, then Mommy. They told me to wait. I waited a long time. I called out, but they didn't answer. I looked inside the hole and saw them sleeping on the ground. I called louder, but they didn't wake up. I got scared. According to the psychologist's interpretation of the child's account, she had waited for a while. Frightened by her parents' lack of response, she tried to retrace their path. Lost, she wandered through the forest until she was found by a forest worker who took her near the trail entrance. He had a big beard and wore a hat. He said he would get help for Mommy and Daddy, but that I should wait on the main path. This description raised the possibility that a local resident, or even one of the previously mentioned palm harvesters, had found the lost child and, out of compassion or fear of involvement, led her to a place where she could be easily found. Leave a comment. Never give up on the truth if you believe all missing persons deserve to be found. The complete autopsy of Paulo and Marina, concluded on April 2nd, 2019, revealed the truth about what happened inside the cave. The medical report showed high levels of carbon dioxide and methane in their lung tissues, confirming the hypothesis of asphyxiation due to gases. It's a phenomenon known as a gas pocket, explained Dr. Victor Mendez, the forensic pathologist responsible for the case. In caves with poor ventilation, gases heavier than air, such as carbon dioxide, can accumulate in lower chambers. People entering these environments can lose consciousness within minutes without even realizing the danger. What made the case particularly tragic was that, according to speleologist specialists who later examined the cave, the gas pocket was concentrated only in the lower chamber, where the bodies were found. Just a few meters above, at the cave entrance, the air was perfectly breathable. Paolo and Marina had probably descended to explore the chamber, leaving Julia at the entrance for safety, explained Roberto Faria from Brazilian Society of Speleology. Ironically, this decision saved the child's life. Upon inhaling the toxic air, they likely became drowsy and eventually lost consciousness without realizing the danger. The death would have been quick and painless, similar to falling asleep. This scientific explanation perfectly matched Julia's testimony about her parents sleeping on the ground and the serene position in which their bodies were found. As for the mysterious forest man who had helped Julia, his identity was revealed 3 weeks after the official closure of the case. Sebastião Pereira, a medicinal plant collector living in an isolated cabin in the area, came forward after learning the details of the case by chance. "I found the girl crying, lost in the forest, almost at night," Sebastião reported. "She was terrified, talking about her parents who had slept and didn't wake up. I tried to calm her and took her to the main path. I didn't want to get involved further because I live here without documents. I collect plants without authorization. I was afraid of being blamed for something, but later I felt guilty." Sebastião's testimony confirmed Julia's version and explained how she had managed to cover such a great distance. According to him, the girl was only about 2 kilometers from the cave when he found her disoriented, but she had instinctively followed a water trail. With all elements of the case clarified, the police investigation was officially closed on April 17, 2019, concluding accidental death by asphyxiation due to natural toxic gases. The impact of the case on the local community and environmental agencies was significant. The Paraná Environmental Institute implemented new safety measures on all trails in the Serra do Mar, including detailed mapping of cave formations and marking of hazardous areas. The Itapava Trail received additional signs, warning visitors not to stray from the designated paths. The academic community was also affected. The Federal University of Paraná, where Marina occasionally taught, established the Paolo and Marina Fund for research on safety in field explorations and proper cataloging of archaeological sites in the region. As for little Julia, she went to live with her maternal grandmother, Dona Helena, in Curitiba. According to psychological reports, the child demonstrated remarkable resilience, although she still experienced occasional nightmares and separation anxiety. Continued therapy helped her process the trauma and understand that her parents had not abandoned her voluntarily. In an interview a year after the tragedy, Dona Helena shared that Julia had stopped repeating the phrase, "They slept on the ground," replacing it with a more mature understanding of what had happened. "Daddy and Mommy went to explore a special cave, and an accident happened. The cave where Paolo and Marina lost their lives was later permanently closed by environmental authorities. However, before its closure, a team of archaeologists confirmed the presence of ancient rock paintings on the walls, the discovery Paolo had so desperately sought. Ironically, his last act had been to prove his theory about the existence of uncatalogued archaeological sites in the region. In December 2019, a small memorial was erected at the entrance to the Itapava Trail, with a plaque serving both as a tribute and a warning, in memory of Paolo and Marina, who left us in pursuit of knowledge. May their story teach us to respect the mysteries of nature. The story of the couple who slept on the ground became a painful reminder of the hidden dangers in our pursuit of the unknown. Like many tragedies, this one also led to positive changes: stricter safety protocols, greater awareness of the risks of unauthorized explorations, and renewed interest in the preservation of both natural and archaeological heritage in the region. If you watched this far, it's because you care about cases that leave a permanent mark on families. Leave a comment saying, "I watched until here," so I can know who truly cares about the pursuit of truth. Don't forget to like this video and share it with friends and family. who are also interested in mysterious disappearance cases that have been solved through science and the persistence of dedicated investigators. The story of Paolo, Marina, and little Julia reminds us that behind every mystery lies a truth waiting to be discovered, even if that truth is sometimes hidden deep beneath the earth.